So
So
with I mean, obviously it sounds very compelling in terms of the asymmetrical kind of positioning of this company in terms of the upside and downside here. With these, like, what could be? I guess I'll pose the question to you: why hasn't it been found? I guess it's a mystery. I mean, like the revenue stuff, but is there an issue with the PR, like as a company, the way it represents itself? I mean, obviously, we talked about this sort of in the first half of the episode, where the value people think that's dead, and obviously people associate value with Charlie Munger, and like, is there something there in terms of sort of
I don't think
PR
that
branding?
PR, so there's no PR, there's no investor relations, there's nothing. In fact, uh, Salzman is the CEO, the CFO, the treasurer, and the secretary.
Hmm.
So this is quite a unique business. Look, in first level thinking, it's like people look to PR. Uh, they want to read the reports, they want to get all their research kind of handed to them. But realistically, I don't think that the board or Charlie really care what the stock price does. It's just not their point at all. They're actually trying to uh, change and enhance and make the courts of this nation and world much more efficient. And frankly, they're trying to they don't have to move. It's not a high bar.
Hmm.
Okay, they just they are implementing incredible technology to a very antiquated analog system. And the reason there's no competition, by the way, is because it's also incredibly bureaucratic.
Yep.
So they have to get in there, and every case is a little bit different. And it's not true SaaS where it's just rinse repeat across the nation. Um, there's all sorts of interfaces that are needed to interact with all sorts of external agencies and other departments and groups. So
Yep.
it does need to be customized, which is so the risk isn't really in IR, in my view. I think they're just intentionally left it out. But nobody knows when I really emphasize this is a big secret. I mean, they're the only people. There's very few people when you go into the real world, Becco. There's very few people who actually know who Charlie Munger is when you say the name, and it's shocking to me, but it just is the case. Everyone knows who Warren Buffett is. They don't know who Charlie Munger is. If you know who Charlie Munger is, you probably don't recognize that he runs Daily Journal, and you probably don't even care. And then if you are one of the few that make the pilgrimage now to Los Angeles to a Daily Journal meeting, you're not there to figure out what journal technologies is. So when I say nobody knows, I really mean it's a secret.
Hmm.
Uh, and the financial statements are very misleading.
Hmm.
Munger has actually made comments like, you can't look at our financial statements and get a very good idea of what we're doing.
Hmm.
He's also made statements where he says, some of you might be shareholders, but you don't deserve what you're going to get
Hmm.
because he knows that they don't know what's going on. So, look, I think it's going to be a bumpy ride. Uh, I don't think there, and I'll share with you. There's major risks if you want to know. There's a cultural risk inside of Daily Journal.
Hmm.
There are risks of there's actually technical debt, which is a term you may be familiar with, Becco.
Hmm.
So they've built so much new technology on top of uh, old languages and
Hmm.
solutions that when they do version upgrades, a lot of things break, and it makes them go back and send in people then to go back and redo projects. So they need to take care of some of their technical debt.
Hmm.
They have an issue where they have two products and they're ending one,
Hmm.
and they're trying to get everyone to migrate. That migration may or may not. I think it's going to go fairly well. However, not everyone can afford to migrate. Some of the customers are upset and unwilling to migrate. But the bigger issue is that the revenue from the first product that they're sunsetting made up about 5 to 8 million of the 35 in JTI.
Hmm.
So that's going to fall off next year. So what people who are only staring at the financial statements are going to see is revenues at 35. Then they'll probably see maybe, eSuites is going to make more revenue, but Justware is going to show over. Then they're going to see revenue at 35. And then maybe even a third year, there's going to be revenue around 36.
Hmm.
Now we're in 2023. and it just looks like there's nothing happening.
Mm,
But I think in 2024, 2025 is where we see like 50, 60 million in revenue show up. And
mm,
then you know,
mm,
so it's very hidden. And
mm,
I don't expect it to double overnight,
mm.
but I do think it's a very nice long-term compounder.
Yeah. I've been in the healthcare tech business for a while, and it really reminds me a lot about a lot of there's so much parallel here. So it's not going to grow explosively like consumer electronics or consumer app SaaS sort of approach. It's not going to grow that way, but there's a clear hurdle to play. You have to, for example, in the healthcare industry, you have to go through FDA to get cleared, and then there's a huge overhead in terms of installation. And then once you're in, though, you're in. You're in. Like it's like doctors can't do without your hardware, your software, and
Mhm.
it's just going to be a faucet that you turn on and never turns off. It's not going to be
Mhm.
a gushing faucet that just pours money out like crazy and just explosive growth. But there's a there's an obvious barrier to entry for new entrants, and once you're in, there's a huge switching cost, and that's why when I look at companies that are in this healthcare technology space, they're getting like 20 times revenue,
Mhm.
just because
And
of the
with Daily Journal run by this group of incredible business, these all these great business minds, which by the way means that they've written the books literally on moats.
Mhm,
And the more you dig, the more you find, and you recognize, oh, here's another thing that they're doing. They're just creating so many win-win opportunities with the entire ecosystem around them. They've just created this network effect because it pays to be with the same provider if you're going to be in the adjacent county or community or
mm,
state, perhaps because you just interface on a smooth basis.
mm,
uh, they've actually created this deferred gratification situation. So Tyler and any other seemingly rational or reasonable player says, yeah, we're going to do a 7-year implementation. You're going to pay us while you're going to pay us this consulting fee as we do the implementation.
mm,
Daily Journal says we don't really need your money until the end. And so it becomes an easier way to get through the RFP process
mm,
because actually they create a positive IRR for the municipality.
mm,
They say, by the time we're done, you'll eliminate this room of storage. You will no longer need to offer this service. You can repurpose this employee who used to do paper filings. We're going to streamline things, and the IRR becomes positive. So these business people are doing things with a long-term vision in mind, the right way, and that's right. So you have the greatest business model, you have great business mind, and then it's selling at 5 times revenue, where everything else is selling for 15 or 20 times.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, certainly exciting company. I encourage everybody who's listening to take a look at this company. It certainly does sound very interesting. But the important thing here is that you need to, obviously you need to kind of do your own due diligence. This is not a financial advice. Make sure you do your own research, and we talk about this all the time in our podcast. The best thing about investing is obviously you get to make money, but also you get to learn about the world, and you get to learn about companies that provide software for municipalities and courtrooms. I mean, it's as esoteric as it is, it's interesting. I mean, there are people who are, you know, this is their life, and there's a company around that. So I encourage everybody
Mhm.
go take a look. Matt, it's been a pleasure.
It
Thank you so
has.
much for coming on to the podcast. We talked a lot about many things, and I'm sure our listeners will have more questions for you. And so, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, good question. I think it's easiest to go to the website, petersonfunds.com. I have written 10 years of quarterly letters. There's a medias and appearances page where there's other interviews and things. From there, you'll be able to find certainly my email address, and we have a YouTube channel. There's a whole lot, but I'd start on the website, petersonfunds.com. And yeah, happy to answer any further questions.
Awesome. I'll leave Matt's contact in the description below. So please go check
Perfect.
him out.
Hey, it's great to see you here. If you enjoyed that video, I'm sure you're going to love this next one we put together. We'll see you there.